Hello and welcome to another video. So we're going to be covering some unlimited decks, at least over the next week or so. We will have a few rotations thrown in as well, as we'll just kind of mix and match them as we go, but we've got a few decks lined up to go, so that's going to be fairly exciting. Otherwise, today we're checking out an unlimited Chimera shift deck. It is a pretty stock standard Chimera shift deck, nothing too shocking. Fire Chain seems to be a pretty common tech now, as it is a good removal card and does a pretty nice job. Snowman King can get you out of some tight bonds and give you some extra little push for lethals if you can't quite make it with the top end combos. And of course, Vesper Witch Hunter is just a super solid card in this variation of deck, so we're going to get right into it and check it out. So our first game is against Shadow. Shadow's one of the strongest decks in Unlimited right now, if not the strongest current deck. It's definitely quite overpowered when it comes to what it can do and how much board it can present. This does give us a fairly good run for our money and a fairly close game. We do start off with a good hand though. Insight and Kaleidoscope Glow are both really good cards to have against Shadow in the early game, both because A, Insight spell boosts, Kaleidoscope returns, and draws and spell boosts. You can't really go wrong with all those combos. And when you see an early villainous, being able to return it to hand to basically negate their little bit of tempo there is always a handy way to go. So 2 spell boosts already is where you want to be. Of course, we do see the villainous again. This time we're not so lucky as we don't really have a way to get rid of it, but at least it has been slowed down by a turn. So we get to take full advantage of that draw, giving us quite a nice spell boost. 4 by turn 3 is pretty much ideal at this point. There's only one way to have a better one, and that would be to get 3 on turn 2 with all 1-drop spells. So Magic Owl is going to do an okay job at clearing out this villainous. We will lose this Magic Owl overall probably, which is a little disappointing, but yeah, you got to lose some things to win some things. I do decide to leave up the 1-2 as it's not really a huge threat right now. But we've spell boosted plenty in the first 4 turns. Flame Destroyer has been spell boosted 8 times, Dimensional Shift is down by 7, and everything else is just pretty comfortable. And a nice Mysterious Knowledge is going to spell boost even further, and allow us to remove these things very easily. So we've already got 2 Flame Destroyers on 0, Dimensional Shift is already in playable range, and we're sitting pretty comfortable with what we have. All we really need now is something to use next turn, as both Golem Assault and Vesper aren't going to work great, because both their full abilities will be active with Golem Assault's Enhance and Vesper's Non-Enhance. Well, Non-Accelerate, sorry, they're 4-drop. But at least, I mean, we've got a free slot in our hand, we've managed to use it fairly well, and we should be able to stabilize pretty nicely next turn. So we're going for the Flame Destroyers and the Dimensional Shift. May not have been the best way to go, but it does mean we get Giant Chimera next turn instead, which is just way better, and we can set up a really nice defensive line. I mean, you can't really go too wrong with this. I mean, a Flame Destroyer with 9 damage and a 7 is going to be a lot. That does only leave them with 2 health, and our Giant Chimera doesn't need much reach. Fortunately though, they do get a pretty decent draw there. I mean, being able to use the 6-4, remove something, and then remove something else, it's always good. Fortunately, they didn't decide to heal, which was an odd one, I guess, because they guessed I would have to attack, which obviously is true. But we had a very easy lethal. That Chimera was absolutely huge when it came to it, compared to how long we actually had the card, which wasn't very long at all. Which gave us perfect amount of reach. And our next matchup is against Haven. Haven has one kind of core variant at the moment, and that's still Tenko. It seems to be its main variant, as it is probably one of the more powerful ones, especially in rotation and unlimited. It seems to do well in both. That doesn't mean it is the only variant, it just seems to be the most popular. So when going into a match, I always expect to come up against some form of Tenko Haven. Unfortunately, I don't really have much in the way of dealing with any early game. Luckily, Haven doesn't usually present much, but in this situation, that Unicorn is going to be really difficult. So I do go for the Magic Owl just because I want something to counter this immediately. Especially since I can't use an Evo till turn 5 anyway, which is a little bit late. And fortunately, we do get to counter one. They do end up playing a second one, but at least one of them is gone, which is a huge advantage for us. And I also play the 4-drop because I don't really have any other card to play that would have been a huge advantage. Especially when they're on their Evo turn. So this is where something like Flame would have been good. I could have used it to kill off an entire board, which would have been nice. Fortunately, we can at least remove one of the healers. Removing one fairly easily is always a good advantage. So a Fiery Embrace because I don't really want to play Golem Assault at 6 and absolutely flood our hand out too much. And our opponent's just kind of pulling cards right now, which isn't bad for us. I mean, we haven't seen anything too threatening yet. So it's giving us some time to really get set up here. We only really need to make it through the next turn to get to turn 9, where the Chimeras will absolutely be devastating. Fortunately, Dimensional Shift isn't usable yet, but these wards should do a nice job of buying us some time. Even if it forces them to use heavy removal, at least that's one heavy removal turn that we won't have to worry about. And that inside draw was absolutely perfect. I would have been pretty screwed if it was the only draw I had. Luckily another one as well, so we actually got a triple spell boost that turn. Really nice on the Dimensional Shift because we can use Flame Destroyer, Dimensional Shift and Giant Chimeras now, which will have absolutely insane amounts of value. As once you combo all of this together, we should pretty easily reach lethal, I think. We can quite comfortably play these spells. The numbers just kind of work out that way. Probably should have removed the Fire Embrace first, but wasn't a big deal. So we're going to be able to go for the 7-7. I do decide to just kill off the 2-3 with it because it's not going to make a huge difference to anything overall. That does mean we're going to get 9 damage to the face this turn. We're also going to get a quite nice turn next turn. Without even having to use the Chimera, we could win this game. But just for fun, Chimera is the better way to win, so why not? Especially since we have done a lot of boosting on these Chimeras, and having them at 24 damage is just too much fun. So overall, this Chimera Rune Shift deck is really good. Of course it would be, I mean it's a Dimensional Shift deck. It does fairly well. You will run into some trouble against more aggressive decks of course, which is a natural enemy of pretty much all of Runecraft's big build decks. So honestly, just give this a go if you are finding more control-y decks or more mid-range decks, as this does do pretty well there. So if you did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.